Dave Arnold, your host of Cooking Issues, coming to you live from the heart of Manhattan, Rockefeller Center, New York City, Newsstand Studios, joined as usual with Sean. Whoa, I got real dizzy because I had to do the intro leaning back. I am currently blacking out, but I can still speak for some unknown reason. Joined as usual with John. How you doing?
Doing great, thanks.
Yeah, we got Joe Hazen rocking the panels.
Hey, how are you?
Literally, my eyes went dark. My vision was going black. I was falling backwards. I don't know what it is. Like, I guess I don't shout as I'm leaning back anymore like I used to. I haven't, been on stage in, 30 years. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. Got in the upper left-hand corner, Quinn. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Yeah. Got Nastassia the Hammer Lopez in Los Angeles. What's up?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. The blood's gone back to my head. I'm good. And Jackie Molecules, what's up?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, so this is not cooking. It's not cooking related. So let's get it out before. John and I were discussing, because we talk a little bit on the mic before we come live to you folks, and I was saying I wish I had a pill that I could take to stop sweating, and John agreed, and then Monsieur Le Molecules said that Monsieur Molecule said that there is such a pill, that you did a radio show on it.
Yeah, I did a whole series. It was like a commissioned thing I did when I was in D.C. with the Hyperhidrosis Society. So apparently there's a whole collection of people that sweat more than the average person, and they have to take pills, or actually Botox is another solution.
Look, it just kills your sweat pores or sweat glands or whatever. It just wipes them out.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep.
So let me ask you this. Did you actually see someone before and after, or two people in a room, one sweating buckets and the other one not sweating buckets after they took this pill? And why don't I know about it? Does it kill you?
Well, maybe I interviewed all these people that suffer from hyperhidrosis, and I didn't see any sweat. So I'm assuming that these solutions work. You know?
Quinn said I should just coat my entire body in antiperspirant, which, other than wishing to be an aluminum man, I don't know that, I don't know. It just seems like, also, don't they leave residue? You wouldn't want to wipe antiperspirant across your forehead, would you? I think the forehead, actually, my whole body needs it. I don't think there's one part of my body. I was in the garden this week, the community garden I was working. I sweat through my gloves on the back. These are buffalo leather gloves that have protected me from direct impacts of a 4.5-inch unshielded angle grinder, and yet I sweat straight through them. I have sweat through 3-piece suits with undershirts. I have sweat through my shoes, right? Not sneakers, leather shoes. I have, dress shoes, sweat through them and ruin them. I sweat a lot. Also, I go hard in the paint. Am I right, Saz?
Yep.
Yeah. I just, I feel like, why not? Why not?
I think you have hyperhidrosis maybe then, Dave.
Maybe. I mean, hyper, definitely. Hyper everything. Hyperhidrosis, why not? I keep, hoping someday that maybe, parts of me will slow down that I want to slow down, and they don't. You know what I mean? So, who knows? Yeah. Look up the pill, send it to me. The other one we were talking about on air, is I want to take the tick pill. I want to eat my dog's tick medicine. But the problem is this, other than maybe it'll kill me, the problem is that dogs really, really, really do metabolize medicines at vastly different rates from people. So my dog's on the same thyroid medicine that everybody takes. I forget the name of it. It's Levitra or something. Is that the thyroid one? I think so. Anyway, so
Levothyrox.
Yeah, whatever that is, my dog takes it. But, the dose is 10 times what a human could take. So it's you can't just take your dog's medicine.
Nope. Yeah.
I have used my dog's shampoo. Did I tell you this on the air before?
No.
Yeah, so we were out of my shampoo once, and I'm in the shower, and the dog shampoo is there. And so I'm I don't really care. You know what I mean? Strong enough for a man, pH balance for my dog. I don't care. You know what I mean? My family lost their minds. They lost their minds. In fact, I'm supposed to probably not mention it to you guys because they're don't ever tell anyone you did that because that's the craziest thing we've ever heard. I'm what? It's soap with goop in it. It's a marketing garbage, right? I mean, once or twice, how's it going to hurt you? You know what I mean? I have been dipped in trash. Nastassia and I worked out of a trash can for 4 years. You think a dog shampoo is going to take me out? Please. Right, Stas?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're listening live, which means you're on Patreon, you can call your questions into 917-410-1507. That's 917-410-1507. But besides just listening in live and calling in and getting priority answers on your questions, there are other benefits to joining Patreon. You want to talk about it, John?
Yeah, if you go to patreon.com/cookingissues, you can find out about all of that great stuff. But prioritize answer question. You get to be a part of our Discord and the online community that's there. It's a really great place where people share recipes, restaurant recommendations, and a whole bunch of other awesome things. You can get access to our live video feed. You get to call us. Discounts with our partners, just a whole bunch of great things. So, yeah, check it out. Patreon.com/cookingissues.
Yeah, occasional STL files.
Yeah, that too.
If you're a 3D printaholic. So anyone got anything from the previous week? Anyone? I know that Quinn's been working on his partially Fredo for weeks now, and is excited about your results. I know. I know you're itching for your semi-Fredo. Why don't you go for it? Go for it, Quinn. Semi-Freight it up.
Yeah, well, I'm not resting on my frozen dessert laurels, so I'm working on new techniques. So I have my sort of modern semi-Fraido technique where you're stabilizing a foam with hydrocolloids instead of like egg whites or whatever. So I made a banana semi-Fraido, and it turned out really good.
Yeah, and you said it wasn't gummy, right? Because that's like a problem with a lot of like stabilized frozen systems that are too stabilized can get, chewy, but not in a necessarily fantastic way, right?
Yeah, no, it's not gummy at all. It's like
foamy,
fluffy.
You ended up
creamy.
just whipping F50, right? You whipped an F50 foam up. You were able to get it to work with milk.
Yeah. So it's basically one of my gelato recipes, and then on top of it, I added the F50. I tweaked the ratio of xanthan a little bit, and then I added a little bit of just extra actual banana pieces blended in for some solids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it worked.
And it was a KitchenAid spray, not a whipper spray, right?
Yeah, I did KitchenAid.
Yeah, you know never to put pieces in a whipper, right? You know never ever to put pieces in a whipper. Yeah. Even tiny
no, it
pieces.
wasn't pieces. Again, I blended it.
You ever have to have someone open a whipper that was clogged? Sucks.
Not yet.
It sucks real bad. If you have an old whipper, so the early models of whipper didn't have a relief groove cut in the threads, and so you'd be first of all, it takes a large amount of force to undo something that's tight, that's under pressure. But then once you get it undone, it's shun, 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 poo, and everywhere.
I did that with chocolate once. It was terrible.
God. Oh my God. And if you've done it once, not in a trash bag, from then on, you get a contractor bag and you open it. But if you have big enough chunks, they can be big enough to clog the groove. You know what I mean? So if someone puts chunks in your EC, just tell them what for. The other thing that I hate is when people put it away without the gasket in. Oh my God. Or if they put it away and they don't push the seal up, I know that you should check all that beforehand, but listen, it's better to check twice. And then if you check twice, you almost never make a mistake, right? If you make a habit of always making sure that the valve is fully shut and seated and there's no little piece of pepper on the O-ring, and you make sure that it's got its main thing in, then you check it again, then one of those two times you will have checked it. It's like the blender thing. When you turn off a Vitamix, always push both paddles down, turn the knob all the way to the left. Always. And then before you turn it on, make sure both paddles are down and the thing's to the left before you plug it in 100% of the time. And then if you mess up one of those two, you'll catch it on the other one. You know what I'm saying? Habits. Anyway. Awesome. So, but you're liking the texture and you're KitchenAiding it. Now, did you do anything special to hydrate the F50? Because as you know, F50, all the methyl cells can have problems in milk systems.
I actually didn't have any issues. So what I did, because I was still using a little bit of a locust bean gum as well, that's from my previous recipe. I sort of split the powders into 3 stages. So I put xanthan and locust bean gum in cold, brought it up to temperature, and then once it was high 90s, add in methocel.
Right,
and then blend it
to
more.
disperse it, folks, to disperse it, because methocel will not dissolve at that temperature. That is a dispersion temperature there. All right, go ahead.
And that was just with my sort of base liquid. Once the methocel was dispersed, I added the rest of the sugar and then some of the reserved liquid to sort of start cooling it down. And then I let it sit overnight in the fridge after cooling.
Yeah.
And then next day, whipped it right up.
So I think maybe letting it sit overnight is a good step in terms of like making sure that F50 hydrates in the milk system. I just know plenty of people that like try to make F50 systems, especially like a la minute systems with milk, and they fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I did an initial test with just like milk and sugar, and it did not work until the next day.
Yeah, known issues.
So
Known
that's
cooking
okay.
issues. Yeah, all right. So I'll say something I did yesterday. I went to Red Rooster, haven't been in a long time. Saw Nils Noren, old time boss and compatriot at the French Culinary Institute, because my niece, the one who says don't yum my yuck, yeah, she was doing a citywide like talent thing for schools at the Apollo Theater. So now she gets to say forever that she played at the Apollo Theater, which is sick. And I've never
really
been to
cool.
an Apollo show before. I mean, I've seen, I used to watch Showtime at the Apollo all the time because who goes to bed after Saturday Night Live? You know what I mean? Who? So you watch Showtime at the Apollo. So I was hoping that we would get to boo all of these kids, right? But of course, they have a no, right? But they have a no booing the kids rule, first of all. Yeah, which sucks.
When did they implement that?
Sometime actually, like in the 90s, I think when Steve Harvey was Harvey was there. When Steve Harvey was there, he was like, "You can't boo the kids" during the thing, right? But here also remember, like the hall is full of parents. I would have gotten the absolute crap kicked out of me, right? So it's like that's one reason not to boo. But the second reason was, unbelievably, these kids were freaking amazing. I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like so much better than like whatever Westchester would do with this. We got 8 million people in this city. So we got some talented freaking kids. You know what I mean? There was this one person, she sang a song. I was like, oh my God, if I was a record person, you would have a contract right now. This is definitely not going to be the last time this person sings at the Apollo. And this was only for Manhattan. So then I was wondering, well, okay, so the Brooklyn equivalent of this is probably where? BAM, right? Probably a BAM, right? And then I don't know where the Queens one would be, right? I was like, where's Staten Island doing theirs? Where's the Staten Island borough-wide talent thing? At a Wendy's? I'm just kidding you guys. I'm just kidding you, Staten Island.
I mean, hey, look, Wu-Tang's from Staten Island, come on.
Yeah, but they don't, I mean, but they
don't
weren't,
sing.
it's not like their teachers were like, ooh, I'm encouraging you to do this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Although there were some, I mean, it's not Wu-Tang thing, but there was some amazing step dance at this thing. I was like, wow. I mean, really, really talented folk here. You know what I mean? Yeah. All age ranges. Modern dance, ballet.
I mean, the Apollo is still most fun when someone's being booed.
Yeah. Yeah, although I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time. I don't know who the current Sandman is because the original one died. You know, who did
really?
do the shuffle him off the stage? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. Classic. Also, you would think after a pandemic, people would know how to get out of a theater in a timely fashion. Forever to get out of that freaking place. People suck. All right, what do you guys got? What do you guys got? Jack, you always have something. You always have gone to some restaurant.
Yeah, that's true. I this weekend was the 10-year anniversary of the Line Hotel, so I hosted a podcast studio pop-up and spent the weekend in Koreatown. So I hit up my Koreatown favorites, MDK noodles, knife-cut noodle soup, the Prince, which has incredibly good chicken and other Korean things. Yeah, Koreatown's just awesome. I don't know if you've spent a lot of time there, but that's one of my favorite places to be in LA.
I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time in LA. So
right, that's true.
I can't just spend a long time. Yeah, I mean, I've been to it.
Koreatown's weird because it's like, it kind of feels like you're in New York for a split second because it's like a proper sort of like urban city feel, And yeah.
If New York had wide streets.
Yeah, Sure, they're a little wider.
And strip malls. If New York had strip malls and wide streets, it would be just like Koreatown in LA.
There's some parts of Queens. I feel like Bayside is like,
Yeah. Fair.
knocking on the door of that.
Fair. All right. What about you, Stas? You got anything? Anything that you're allowed to talk about? That I'm allowed to ask you about?
No. I mean, we haven't. I saw Jack and his girlfriend, and but we like the usual places. So yeah.
Yeah. There's all these stories I wish that I could bring up, but like I'm gonna catch crap afterwards. You know what I mean? I catch crap. It's like anyway. Oh, I got one for you. Dax, in Alaska now. He's in Juneau. He just landed in Juneau, so now I'm gonna get some hopefully Alaskan food stories from him.
Hopefully.
I want to get him to call in so that he can beat Quinn in upper leftness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, John, what do you got?
I have to go to the North Pole.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I finally took my New York City DOH food safe certification thing yesterday.
See, if you want to admit that it took this long to go get your food handler's license?
Yeah, it's fine. It is what it is.
Yeah, but you've been handling food all this time.
Yes.
No license. Unlicensed handler.
But I've been doing it safely. But in the review course, I did everything within the last week, and the online review course, the stuff they were saying about MSG is just so archaic and outdated. I just couldn't believe that it was. I mean, I guess I can still believe that it's up there. But saying it needs to be listed as like a potentially hazardous ingredient and all these other things, and it's just like, what?
Yeah,
how is this still a thing?
It's not the case.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incorrect.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was just shocking to see that there. I wonder if like I'd read everything a little more carefully, what other stuff I would have found. So
So for those of you who aren't in New York or aren't in the restaurant business, somebody who's in a food service establishment at all times must have what's called a food handler's license. And I have one in my wallet right now. It's a plastic card that certifies that you have been passed through New York City's Department of Health program for food safety. Now, here's a funny thing. It's good for life. Forever. So, like, I could fall off a building, hit my head, get scraped off the concrete, put into a restaurant, and I am still valid person to judge food safety in that restaurant according to the city of New York, right? Like driver's licenses, they expire, everything expires except this license. Here's the other thing. In order to get the license, you have to watch an online video. But even if you know the answer to the video, you have to spend a certain amount of time on each screen.
Yep.
So you're like trying to click through the screens and you can't.
And if you forget to move your mouse like after that, you've started and you're at the last screen
if you walk
waiting before
away.
the test. Yeah, you walk away, it restarts it over.
Yeah. And if you get anything wrong on the quiz, you have to go through that section again.
Oh no, you could just go back this time and just
So I'm not saying this. You have to pass a test in real life, right? You have to go take a test. By the way, they only give the test in one place in Manhattan, and it's way uptown from where we live. You know what I mean? If you happen to live by 110th Street, convenient. You know what I mean? But like, isn't it at 110th? 100th.
Yeah.
So not across 110th Street.
No.
Now that song's going through my head. Yeah, that's a great song. Everyone loves that song. I'm not going to sing it though. Anyway, so then you go to 100th Street and like right in the middle of the island too. So it's not convenient to any subway at all. You have to walk basically into the middle of the island. And then you sit and you're like, okay, I'm going to take this test. I'm going to be out of here in 20 minutes.
Nope.
Nope.
You got a 40-minute review first where everyone is encouraged to speak and ask questions, and as you can imagine, a lot of silly questions out there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you go through all that and they give you your card for life. Yeah, it's a scam.
Yep. Yeah. $24 scam.
$24 scam.
Yeah.
Just pay the $20. What if you paid $48 and then just didn't have to do that? Would you have paid $48 to not have that review?
100%.
Yeah. What'd you get on your test, may I ask?
100.
Oh, what's up? Totally safe.
Totally safe.
Yeah. How much do you remember of the individual bacteria that they've asked you to remember?
Very little.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. We have an All Tangent Tuesday. That's right, All Tangent Tuesday. Oh, let me remind you guys, if you want, you should go. We still have the Glass Van promotion code. This is for anyone. Capital D, AVE, capital A, Arnold, no space on Glass Van to get 10% off. But Patreon folks get more with a different code that you can only get on our Patreon site. And I have to say, I mean, he's not paying us. I feel like it would be nice if they would sponsor us. You know what I mean? But I do like the glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew Cummings wrote in, I know that this is about Spinzalls, folks. So our culinary and bar centrifuge, the only centrifuge designed for bar and culinary work. I know that the 1.2, so I have a recommendation for for the density of product that you can put into the rotor. So if you don't know for centrifuges, I don't know why you're listening to this show, but centrifuge is something that spins and then uses the force generated from spinning. I'm not going to say centrifugal because I don't want some science nut to be like, it's not a real force. It's an apparent force. Shut up. Anyway, so like it uses that force to separate things, right? And so I had to choose because the factory, wants to know what the ratings for it are. So I had to choose a liquid density that's the maximum density because the higher the density, the more the rotor weighs, the more energy it requires, the more energy is in it. Sometimes the harder it is to balance, et cetera, et cetera. So I chose a number, 1.23 grams per cc. And why did I choose that? Because that's simple syrup. And I figured that very few people were going to spin things that were denser than 1-to-1 simple syrup. Is it going to work if it's like 1.3? Yes, probably. You know what I mean? But like, please don't fill your bucket with BBs or with mercury. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where that number comes from. That's all it is. Is there anything that falls outside this range that people might attempt to spin? Yeah, maple syrup. But why would you spin maple syrup? Like, why would you spin maple syrup? Frankly, why would you spin simple syrup? Maybe? Yeah, but if you you flavor it, you want to spin out the solid, you want to spin out the stuff. It's kind of hard to throw a puck out.
You could do like a spiced maple syrup. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Let me put it this way. I chose that number because I was like, ain't no one need to spin something denser than this. And no one has, as far as I know. At least not that they've told me. But on the other hand, I'm not worried about it. Don't fill it with mercury for several reasons. Mainly cost. Can you imagine how much it would cost to fill a rotor with mercury?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. There's no...
What about gallium? If you keep it real hot.
Yeah, well, or they could get like one of those bismuth alloys that melts at like body temperature. You ever play with those? You guys ever play with those? Holy crap. They're these metal alloys. Bismuth, because it's like bismuth is one of the main things, and I forget what all the other stuff in it, and they melt some of them like just above body temperature, and they're used for like making these metal. So some of them are interesting because they expand when they crystallize, so that they can actually make incredibly like good molds of things because they puff out as long as you're molding something cold. But yeah, they're amazing. Not food grade. So that's why they've never come up on the show before. I used to keep some of that stuff around though. So awesome. And you can choose the melting temperature. I had a project I was working on in art school where I wanted to make a machine that would repeatedly cast something over and over and remelt it. And then I wanted to use cerobismuth, which is why I had a bunch of that stuff lying around. But I was like, you know what? I don't want to have molten toxic metal everywhere. I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean?
No Tangent Tuesdays on cooking issues.
Doris writes in, hoping to upgrade my juicing game now that I have my hands on a Spinzall 2.0. Fantastic product, by the way. The speed versus the 1.0 is a game changer. Well, thanks. Thank you. I agree. I'm currently running one of Breville's centrifugal juicers, and I'm not happy with the yield. Well, you know why? Breville, it's not just the probably fine for apples and okay for carrot and celery, but rhubarb are a problem, and the soft fruit yields are awful. Yeah, Breville also throws a crap ton of pulp into the... I like Breville's products, but like that juicer in particular, juicers, it's like they say in Rosemary's Baby, every juicer is different. You know what I mean? It's like juicers make very different, not just yield, right? But the actual way the juice tastes, the components of the juice are different from juicer to juicer. So the centrifugal style juicers chum up the fruit and then strain it through a strainer centrifugally. And Breville's, especially because of the size of the hole that's in it, throws a lot of pulp into the juice. So you get a very pulp heavy juice. So after clarification with Breville juice, you're going to get a lower yield off of input product than you would with, let's say, a Champion off of apple. And by the way, this is not theory. I've done this a million times. You know what I mean? My current, you talk about this other stuff. Is it worth exploring a standalone press to run the waste pulp through? I mean, that's a real pain in the butt. That's a huge pain in the butt. I have a press. I've had several presses, and I have a press. Presses are messy, right? Although I do recommend something for spinzals, by the way. If you're spinning a lot of pucks of something, save the puck and then put it in a nut milk bag. And then once the puck is compressed, right, then you can give a last squeeze and you can get a good yield of clear stuff out of the puck. It's a good trick to get extra yields out of Justinos and whatnot. Anyway, okay. Should I just spring for a hydraulic press juicer? Well, like I say, most people I know who have them are like, man, these are a pain in the butt. And they're real expensive. You know what I'm saying? Messy and expensive. So if you're one of these people who believe that cold press juice is the end all and be all of like health, or you believe that it's going to stay, you know, you're not adding ascorbic acid, and so you're like, I want it to not oxidize as much, and so you want that. But, you know, typically these hydraulic presses, first you have to chum it up, the stuff, which is called something with a T. And then after that, you put it in a bag, then you put it in a press, and you got to clean it all out. And for that, you spend thousands of dollars on a machine. So, you know, whatever. Build one yourself if you really want to see. I don't use mine very often. The only thing I use it for right now is I have an orgeat recipe that's really hard to strain. That I use it for. And grapes. Oh, my God, for grapes. Grapes with seeds. Grapes with seeds. Concord grapes. God's grape. Everyone who doesn't like Concord grape is mistaken. Stas, what do you think about Concord grapes?
Love them.
Love them. Love them. You know what's disappointing, Nastasia? Those grapes that are halfway to a Concord that they sell in the supermarkets that don't have seeds?
Yes. Horrible.
Horrible. Horrible. There's a perfectly good grape that they could have used instead. Concord. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a trick for you guys. When you're juicing Concord grapes, let's say you juice Concord grapes, don't just juice the grape and walk away, because you're not going to get enough of the skin contact flavor. Like Concord, a lot of the amazing aroma and flavor from a Concord grape is around the skin area. So the trick with a Concord, and this is why you want to press, the trick with a Concord is to squash it without rupturing the seeds, which is if you put it in a blender, right, or if you abrade the seeds too much, even if you run it twice through a regular juicer. Some juicers you can run it through once without breaking the seeds, but if you run it through twice to get your yield higher, which you're going to need to do, you're going to rupture the seeds. You're hosed. Then after you press it once, add some enzyme to it to loosen up the skins, and then leave the skins and the juice together for hours. Leave it overnight, then rejuice it. Get that skin contact flavor. Alternatively, if you're going to make a liquor out of it, juice it and then add straight booze to the skins. Let that soak the color and flavor out, then add the two together. Anyway, back to Dory's question. Is it worth standalone press? No. I'd go for a Kuvings, but I'm going to use it. I'd use it less because of the cleanup hassle. So Kuvings is the juicer I use. I love it. I love it. In fact, I'm gonna make Contra buy one, because I do the peely juice where I just throw whole lemons into it and juice a whole lemon with the rind, and your yield is higher. And a lot of people like the juice better. That's my answer to super juice, because a lot of people like peel flavor in the juice, and it's so fast and so clean. But you can't dishwash it. Here's why. They're health nuts. The Kuving, all high-end juice people are health nuts, right? No offense, health nuts, but they're worried about, I'm not saying right or wrong, but they're worried about plastics, right? So they use these plastics in the Kuvings that aren't dishwasher safe, because they can't guarantee them under the high temperatures of a dishwasher, so they might warp. So all the parts of the Kuvings are hand wash. That said, they're not that hard to hand wash. You know what I mean? So I just hand wash it. I don't worry about getting and there's a little good thing on it to help you wash it. I don't worry about getting every last little, oh, by the way, can I tell you guys a tip that was given off air a couple weeks ago? So when Dina was on, she was talking about Bangladeshi food, and after we cut Mike, I was like, oh, I forgot to rib you. I was going to give her crap, because in her book, I didn't do this on air, right? I was going to give her crap because I was like, every recipe that you have chilies in, you tell people to wear gloves, right? I chop chilies all the time. Don't wear gloves. I don't care. You know what I mean? Wipe my eyes out, have juice shooting out of my eyes. It's fine. You know what I mean? But she never mentions wearing gloves, and all of her recipes, not all of them, a lot of her recipes have turmeric in it, right? not just have turmeric in it, but she's rubbing turmeric into things. You know what I mean? Like rubbing it in. And nowhere is she like, put gloves on for the turmeric. And I was like, what the hell, man? I was like, turmeric scares me more than anything else in the kitchen from a staining perspective. And here's what she said. I have not had a chance to test it, but we'll put it out to the Cooking Issues crew, see what you think. She said, cold water only. She's like, your problem is you're washing your hands with hot water. She's like, don't. Wash your hands with cold water and you can get out the turmeric stains. And I was like, I've never, ever tried it. So I'm going to, next time I juice turmeric and get some on somebody else's hands, because I ain't going to touch it, I'm going to tell them to wash it off with cold water first and see whether that's helpful. Did anyone else have any experience with this?
Not I, yeah.
But it's super interesting. That's the kind of stuff people tune in for, and it was right after we cut Mike. So you have it now. It's an extra bonus from when she came on the show. Anyway. All right. So I'd go for the Kuvings, but I'm going to use it less because the cleanup hassle, all the Breville parts are dishwasher safe. Am I really missing out on a dishwasher option in this category? I don't know whether there's another one, I forget the name of it, Pure or something that uses a similar vertical auger. Look for a slow vertical auger machine. The Kuvings is really good. I've used other ones. I can't remember the name of it, that the juice quality wasn't as good out of it. For me, it's worth the hassle of the dishwashing problem. And I bet that a top rack dishwasher would work. I bet you that in the top rack it would be fine. But I can't say that. You know what I mean? I've done plenty of things that they tell you not to do. The instruction booklet for the Kuvings is like, don't juice too much. It's going to be too much for the machine. And I'm like, I don't care what you say. You know what I mean? And I juice infinity with it. You know what I mean? I fed a spoon into it. I told you this. I fed my bar spoon into it by mistake. And I was just, a little piece of ginger was stuck. And I was like, I'm just going to get that. I'm going to get that into the auger. So I stuck the spoon in and it was like, "Ugh!" And it ate my spoon and twisted it into like a pretzel. Oh, wow. Machine fine. Thing's a beast. And it doesn't heat up like the Champion did. Oh my God. I have to say, all my Champions were stolen. I don't think I'm going to buy another one because I think the Kuvings can handle most of this stuff. Although I still have a love for, Nastasia and I just putting case after case after case of apples through those things. Man, good times. Okay. And the other question, am I missing out on not using a Champion? I don't do lemongrass in a Champion. I've never juiced lemongrass. Have any of you ever juiced lemongrass?
No.
I know Nastasia's not going to be juicing any lemongrass. Yeah, Nastasia's like, hell no. Ginger is good in a Champion, but it's great in a Kuvings. Anyway, I hope this answers some of your questions. Definitely talked more about juicers than anybody else wants me to. Clintosaur writes in, apologies to the Hammer for an unbearable carbonation question. Earmuffs does. Are there diminishing returns for the PSI on forced carbonation? Yes. All right. Okay, they say I've got stainless steel carb caps and a tap right regulator on my 25-pound tank. No such thing. You have a 20-pound tank, my friend, that maxes out at 120 psi, although I normally carbonate at 45 psi. I've seen the most 2-liter bottles start to fail around 140 psi. Blah, blah, blah. Is there any reason not to carbonate at 90? Yeah, look, there's a limited amount of CO2 that you can keep in the bottle. So if you plan on opening the bottle at any point, there's no point in trying to add more CO2 than is going to immediately leave, right? Immediately. So in alcoholic beverages, lower ABV alcohol, 45 is a good number. 45 is not going to get too much foaming on seltzer either, so I just keep everything on 45 all the time, and I'm good. And I've been doing this for decades, like decades and decades and decades. Unfortunately, that's how old I am. I've been doing this forever. I would say over 2 decades, 3 decades. Anyway, so what I would caution against is that you need much higher numbers if you're carbonating at room temperature. So 45 psi is for water at, you can go a little lower when you're doing water, but that's for water at 0, right, at ice water. And that's for cocktail just above its freezing point. If you want to carbonate something when it's warm, then you need to go much higher. So when I run gas into a carbonator that's carbonating room temperature water, and then it's going to go through a cold plate, I'm running it at like 110, 115, as high as it'll go. I run a very much higher PSI. But that's because the solubility of gas in a liquid, it goes up. The solubility of gas in a liquid goes up as the temperature goes down, as opposed to solids, which is the opposite. All right? So I hope that answered that question. Did that answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say so.
Adam. Oh, Quinn, you're going to get in on this. Adam says...
Yeah, I got it up on screen.
Yeah. Are you guys traditionalists? Do you guys champ at the bit or chomp at the bit?
Chomp.
Yeah, traditionalists champ. They don't chomp.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be champ.
Yeah.
I've just given up on the expression altogether because it frustrated me.
Really? So you were so frustrated by having to have the champ chomp discussion that you just don't use it anymore? And you say like...
Yep, opted out.
Yeah, because we have a word for it, excited.
Foaming at the mouth.
Oh, foaming at the mouth. Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, foaming at the mouth. Rat. And nobody's worried about rabies anymore. No one's like, my dad had rabies once. It just doesn't come up. You can make fun of, like, rabies, I think, at this point. No?
It's safe. It's PC to make fun of rabies.
Someone in my family got bit by a bat and they didn't catch it in time. They got rabies. I mean, like, it's a horrible disease. Like, if you don't get the shots, you die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a terrible, terrible disease, and yet it's just not a thing anymore, right? Yeah. Anyway. Howdy. I'm making, so Quinn is foaming at the mouth for this one. I'm making a low-fat, low-calorie ice cream in my creamy just as a way to mix up my protein snacking while avoiding saturated fats, and in parens on doctor's orders. Adam, I'm not going to go too into this, but is your doctor just, like, you follow whatever recommendations you feel comfortable with for your own health, obviously. You know what I mean? I will say that in my experience listening to doctors give orders to people about their diet, that it is often ill-advised. Now, I'm not saying that that you should eat a ton of saturated fats. There's also, by the way, unsaturated fats that you can add to your ice creams, right? They don't have to be low fat, right? Yeah. You can add unsaturated fats to your ice creams. I'll just say that, like, and by the way, like as I say, like, people are like, oh, some of my best friends are doctors. My whole family, a lot of doctors, medical folk, right? They often give crackpot advice when it comes to foods because they're just reading things off of lists. They can't be experts in everything. They can't know how to, fix like some problem inside your body and whatever the current actual good research is on the effect of diet on your health. They read like studies done by people with axes to grind, and no one has the time. Doctors don't have the time to investigate this crap any more than you do. So I take all orders with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Right? That was fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, all right. Okay, that said, Adam has Quinn's book, which is good because it's cheap. Quinn, how much does that book cost?
That's $5.
$5.
To be fair, it is a download, but it is $5.
$5. Can you even buy a cup of coffee for $5 anymore? How much? Like espresso, you can, but can you buy one of those big jugs of milk that they call coffee for $5? How much does that stuff cost now?
Yeah, like $6.
Like a Frappa Ding Dong is like $6.50. Yeah. All right. So yeah, so go get Quinn's book. That's what I'm saying. But Quinn's gelato doesn't quite overlap with low fat. Quinn, not a low fat man. Still.
Well, I would say it is lower fat compared to many styles of ice cream. Like your cream and glaze base is 50-50 cream and milk, right?
Oh yeah, baby. Yeah. We got and like, you add enough egg to it that it doesn't overchurn. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess in theory, again, it is lower fat compared to other ice creams.
Also, by the way, like when someone specifies cream and milk in the United States, it's an entirely different beast than specifying cream and milk in, let's say, the UK, where they have a such higher percentage butterfat cream. You know what I mean? Like we should all be giving percentages when we talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Sorry. 33 to 36.
Yeah, Canada and America, same on that stuff, right? If only we can get now the shipping between our two countries to work, we'll be all copacetic. Still, the parts in Quinn's book on anti-freezing power, AFP, helped a ton. There are hundreds of recipes online that work wonderfully fresh spun, but I want something I can refreeze and have on hand. Using AFP, I think I got close, but still have some questions. So there's two basic, so the recipe is water, gelatin, xanthan gum, locust bean gum, which, do you think you would sell more if you called it St. John's bread? Maybe?
Is that like the plant of locust bean?
Yeah. Isn't it? Same? Isn't it St. John's? It's carob, and they're all related. They're all leguminous things, and they might all be the same. Locust doesn't sound good. I mean, like, locust trees right now are blooming, and they smell delightful, right? They're like, what's that delightful smell? And you're like, locust. And they're like, ugh. You know what I mean? And black locust trees are amazing. Their bark is amazing. They look like haunted house trees. They're awesome. It's just not a great word. No one likes locusts. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, literally in the Bible, when they're going to bring a plague, they're like, locusts. You know what I mean? Anyway. Heat water to 160, stir and let set a few minutes, then add 300 milliliters. Now get this, pre-mixed protein shake. Now that's a black box for you. By the way, I used the term black box with on a call to a bunch of people in China, and Nastasi was like, no one knows that term, you idiot. Just say what you mean. But it took forever for me to figure out, like, the long way of saying black box. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Crap whose internal workings
imagine
are...
a box.
Yeah. Imagine a box with a bunch of mechanisms inside, and you put something into the box, and then something happens inside the box, and something comes out, and you don't understand how that happened. Black box. And Stas is like, you're an idiot, Dave. This call is now taking longer. But you were happy because the call... You were happy. Why? Why were you happy, Nastasia? Why were you happy that call was taking a long time?
Oh, because it was 1 a.m. their time. I would have gone all day, Dave. I would have gone all day.
The pleasures of the 12-hour flip when you're doing business across the world. Okay. Protein shake, peanut butter protein. What's peanut butter protein? The hell's that?
I think it's like a flavored, like, protein powder would be my guess.
All right.
Or you can get, like, defatted peanut butter powder.
What the hell's that? Peanut meal? What do you like, soak peanut meal in hexane and then flash the hexane off and then freaking, like, just have, like, defatted peanut meal?
I don't know. You'll have to ask.
Quinn, I'm putting this on you. Putting this on you. Brandy and Benedictine. I like Benedictine. Benny. So anyway, the question is, because they're thinking of swapping in pudding mix instead of gelatin, and the question is, which has stronger gelling power relative to flavor impact, gelatin or pudding mix? Well, Quinn, as Kanye said, I'm going to let you have your time. But gelatin is the sine qua non of flavor release. If there's ever a question, what's going to have better flavor release, gelatin or fill in the blank with any other thing, it's going to be gelatin. 100% of the time. That is what the gelatin does. That is why people have a hard time getting rid of gelatin when they give up animal products. Because it is awesome. It's great. Putting starch. Everyone knows starch covers the hell out of flavors. Anyway, what do you think?
Yeah, I was also going to not recommend starch, but also I think they're obviously they're trying to, like, soften it essentially just with alcohol, and then they're trying to, like, re-stabilize it. But I think their stabilizer numbers are still really high, because, again, scaling up for a full-size batch, that'd be 8 grams of gelatin, 4 of xanthan, and 4 of locust bean. I think all of those could, like, dial down a little bit.
Also, gelatin and xanthan have a weird interaction. They can make an unpleasant...
Also, they're not bringing the temperature high enough for the locust in theory.
Yeah. Here's another thing you should be aware of, Adam. AFP, all the freezing power things are, if you actually look at the curves of alcohol freezing, like an alcohol mixture freezing, And the way that you calculate it is you calculate the point of first crystal, then you do the math, you figure out what the current concentration is after the crystals come out, and then you recalculate the new freezing rate and you draw those curves. If you do it for just sugar and just alcohol, you'll see that they have different slopes. So you can hit a temperature where, because all of these gelato things are based on freezing a certain amount of the liquid solid, right? But the problem is they have different slopes. So anything that's done with alcohol as primary antifreeze is going to melt faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little.
I was considering that. And also, again, I would consider adding a non-saturated fat. Again, the protein shake, as you said, is like a black box. So it's like, what's in that?
Yeah, protein and some sort of whipping agent. Rather, the proteins probably are their own whipping agent, right? Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. I don't know. But, look, send on the Patreon. Why don't you send a picture of the ingredient list on the two black boxes, on the peanut powder and the stuff, and then Quinn can take a look at them and see what he thinks. Kazis writes in, I want to run a forced carbonated drink at the restaurant I'm soon to open. Our build is tight, and a large CO2 tank would not fit behind the bar. Recently, in the Punch article, I saw Dave working a setup with a noticeably smaller tank, about the size it would fit in an ice well along the bottles. How many liter bottles can I expect a 2-pound tank to carbonate, and can I build my setup with a shorter line and a smaller regulator so it's less cumbersome in my well? I would not do that. I would not do that. Those things run out very quickly. They're expensive. Those regulators aren't good for actual service use. My question, do you have a basement? You can run your CO2 line for like 100 feet, and it doesn't matter, right? Like, so you get what's called a small secondary regulator. They're like $35, $40, and a primary regulator that's right on the tank. You set the primary regulator at like 100 PSI, and then you run a line as long as you want, right, of CO2 from the basement, from the bathroom, from like the office upstairs, wherever. It doesn't matter. It's thin. It's like a quarter of an inch. It's 12.1 millimeters across on the outside, the line that I use, all right? And you run that line to the secondary regulator, which is tiny. It's like, the size of an orange. And that one you can set at your 45 PSI, and because it's coming in at 100 and going out at 45, you're not going to have a drop over that 100-foot line. And that's the way to go. Otherwise, you're going to be spending $1 billion on freaking SodaStream tanks, and they're going to be running out every night. And then there's a leak. God forbid. Jesus, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. What do you think? Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I did have one more thought about the frozen dessert.
All right.
Because I have done this a lot. Again, my mom is somebody that, when possible, if she's having high sugar, she likes it to be in the form of like something like a dried fruit, so that you're also getting some fiber at least. So I have done many successful frozen desserts with like dates or other dried fruit, and they actually work really well because they're contributing solids, and they're like mostly fructose and glucose, so they actually contribute a decent amount of anti-freezing.
Yeah, remember the reason that monosaccharides have roughly twice the freezing power is because you get 2 moles. Every mole of, so it's the freezing depression is related to the actual number of molecules that you have, the actual number of Jackie molecules you have in your recipe per unit, right? And so 1 mole of sucrose breaks down into 1 mole each of glucose and fructose. So if you invert your recipe, right, it has twice the anti-freezing power. This is why if you make a recipe with, let's say, very high acid in it, and you add sugar to it, and then you cook it and don't freeze it right away, or if you store it for a long time, if you make a lemon, have you had this happen before? You make like a lemon sorbetto or something like this, and then, Quinn, you tell me, and then you let it sit for like a month, and all of a sudden, it doesn't have the it gets too soft because you've inverted the sugars. Has this happened to you before?
Well, 2 things. 1, my lemon sorbet does not last that long. 2, again, I'm already adding like some glucose, so there's not as much disaccharide in the formula to begin with. So So yeah, I haven't noticed that. But I'm sure it would happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, all my sorbets tend to be more like cold processed.
Right. Well, anytime you heat disaccharides with acid, you get inversion. Just something to keep aware of. That's all. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, again, like 4 dates, 4 dried fruits. Depending on the exact ratios, you can actually make like perfectly balanced recipes in terms of like sweetness and texture with just fruit. So it does work.
Yeah. Well, dates are almost all sugar. I mean, date is a way for people to feel good about eating sugar. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Also, dates and espresso, delicious, great combination.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite date? Who's got a favorite date?
I'm basic. I think I've only had Medjool, I think.
Oh, Twin, what the hell? You order like all of these fancy things, and you look, Medjools are delicious, right? But it's just a big sugar bomb. I mean, they're great.
Dave, look at that sign.
Dry brining. Oh, you're killing me. I just got fishbowls with a sign that says dry brine. Killing me. Killing me. This solar patrol is out to get me. Anyway, okay. Mathman writes in, how do you manage recipes, both in progress and completed ones? I use a mixture of OneNote, Obsidian, and Paprika. I was like, Paprika, the spice? What's Paprika? Is that like an online note-taking thing? I don't know.
It's an app. It's a recipe app.
Yeah. To do this, I wanted to know what professional book writers, chefs, etc. use to manage it all. Well, so I'm very bad at it, which is why it takes me a long time to do everything. But Wiley, my brother-in-law Wiley, a couple of years ago switched from notebooks. So I used to just keep notebooks because the problem is that I'm not sitting there typing into a computer when I'm working and I'm adding little drips and drabs. So I would just have like just notebook after notebook after notebook. Anytime someone gives away free notebooks, like at a booze event, I'm like, oh, notebooks. You know what I mean? And then but the problem is that like you have to kind of remember what's in each notebook. And I don't go through, I'm not smart enough to like be like, this is this month and then can figure it out. So I recently switched to a Remarkable tablet. My iPad just never got friendly enough for doing that. And so now as I'm working in the kitchen, I write all my notes in the Remarkable. It can go up to my computer. And then when I feel like I've got something that I can keep, I just have like bunches of Word documents and Excel documents that I use to actually track what's going on. So like usually I'll have like a bunch of recipes in a Word document that are related to each other and then a folder, and then I'll have also an Excel sheet that goes with it where I can do like massive amounts of calculations and switching around. Really, on cocktail recipes, I tend to keep them in, this shows how old I am, an Access database, right? Because I have so much software that I wrote into the functionality into the database that I can't leave it yet. Anyway, that makes sense. What do you use, John?
Yeah.
Notepad, Moleskines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, with Quinny Fresh, what program do you use? I know you're a computer-based.
I've got just literally a giant single Google Doc for like all my miscellaneous recipes, and then I have obviously there's like an actual document where I planned the book, and then there is like a number of different spreadsheets. So there's like sometimes a feedback loop between sort of making a first version of a recipe, turning that into a spreadsheet if it needs to be like adaptable, and then you sort of feedback loop until you get a good result.
Yeah. On my urn when I die, I wrote, never figured out Google Docs. You know what I mean? Anyway. Nikki writes in, at my brother's restaurant, they make this passion fruit rum liqueur in a 6 liter to 8 liter Cambro, allowed to thaw for 30 minutes, 1 kilogram of passion fruit puree. By the way, you have to specify all the passion fruit purees are different. Going back to Rosemary's Baby, every passion fruit is different. Nastasia's favorite fruit, by the way. 1 kilogram passion fruit puree, break down to the immersion blender, 1 liter El Dorado rum, and 950 grams of sugar. And you're not kidding with your sugar, huh? 1 liter of rum and 950 grams of sugar and a kilo of passion fruit puree Add sweetened rum mixture to passion fruit puree, slush, blend with merchant blender, and use within 2 years. The mixture, it breaks. Yeah. Well, because it's not, yeah. I mean, I don't know what, Nikki, I'm going to have to think about this. First of all, I wonder what the bricks of, tell me the bricks of your passion fruit puree so I can figure out how much more sugar you're adding to the puree. I would melt the, all right. Yeah, I just need to know more. Nikki, tell me more. We can stabilize this, right? We can stabilize this. Tell me the actual brand of puree you're using. I don't know, what would I use to stabilize that? I'd have to think about it. Wait, how goopy do you want it to be? I mean, xanthan's the goop of choice for stabilization, but it's like, if you add just enough of the xanthan to keep it stabilized, so if you add just enough xanthan to keep it stabilized when it's in the bottle, and you're not worried about it destabilizing when you use it in a drink, then I would say xanthan's going to be okay. If you stay down at like 0.125% in that range. But you should hydrate all that crap in the water, right? Because it's just over. I have to look at I have to do the spec and the numbers, but yeah, I would say a little bit of Chantana would not be so bad. You could use some other stabilizers too. Anyway, what do you think, Quinn? You got anything? Coco Lopez, by the way, which we call out. Coco Lopez is like half stabilizer. That's why, because coconut milk is the hardest thing to stabilize. You're like, passion fruit's actually not a real problem to stabilize because it doesn't have a problem fat. Coconut milk has a problem fat in that coconut fat is very hard, and so it's hard to stabilize without using some serious stabilization. And so that's how Coco Lopez works, and that's why that parrot has that look on its face when it's on the outside of the freaking can. You know what I mean? Because of all the stabilizer it's consuming. What do you say, Quinn? You had a suggestion?
No, yeah, I was gonna say maybe acacia, or like you recommend often like a tickleoid style.
No, acacia's not going to do it on its own. I mean, usually like you can add gum arabic / acacia. I usually use that when there is some oil in it, though, for its emulsification capabilities, because it's relatively low viscosity on its own. But not going to hurt you. Adding a little bit of that ain't going to hurt you. Ain't gonna hurt you none. There's a lot of sugar. I got to look at the numbers. It depends on the bricks of the stuff. So like, let's say there was no sugar in the passion fruit. Then you're talking about adding still more 1-to-1 simple syrup than there is liquor in it. I mean, it's real sweet. You know what I mean? But that's what they're looking for. They're using it basically as a stabilized syrup, maybe, because it's shelf stable for a year. So really, they're using the alcohol as a stabilizer. But this is looking like Chambord kind of a situation. You know what I'm saying? It's Chambord. And they don't have solids in it. That's how they do it, right? You can clarify this mother. That'll work. You know what I mean? Then it's stable forever. Forever. All right. So Jesse is trying to recreate the HEB mitad y mitad tortillas. What is it? I don't know mitad y mitad. But HEB is the, Here Everything is Better Mart in Texas. Not Heb. I asked. I was like, HEB Mart. I was like, am I allowed to say the name of this store? What the hell's going on? You know what I mean? And they're like, it's pronounced HEB. I'm like, well, this doesn't make sense. It's Texas. I don't understand it. I have a pack I brought from the source for reference, but I was wondering if anyone has a starting point recipe so I wouldn't have to go from scratch. Unbleached, enriched wheat flour, yellow corn masa flour, water, wheat gluten, palm oil. So, okay, I got it for you. Go to Hacienda and buy the mix. Buy the mix that they made of masa, or their maseca, and Hayden Flour Mills White Sonoran. Buy that. Just use that. And make sure to add fat. I don't really think it matters whether you use warm water or not, because it's going to be good. All right? Tony, I haven't looked at your hex-clad pan, so I don't know. I'll look at that for next week to see whether or not that's a good frying pan to buy. By the way, I'm modifying my fryer finally to be 3,000 watts. 3,000 watts. MT says, we're headed to Paris to celebrate a significant birthday, and I love all your recommendations for restaurants and culinary things to see. Triple B in September. Go on the Patreon. I'm sure John's all Paris up in there, no?
Yeah, definitely on the Google map.
Is Bartolome in there? Is Bartolome in there?
I don't think so.
What the hell, man?
Oh, it's been a while.
What about the Beaufort place that's over by the Garden Luxembourg?
No, it should be, though.
Oh, my God. That Beaufort place is amazing. Do you like Beaufort cheese?
Yeah.
You're a person, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Beaufort is delicious. Don't get the grubby one. Get the really good one. It takes 3 days for that lady to like you. 3 days. If you go there every day for 3 days, eventually she'll be like, okay, you get the good cheese. And they're open when the rest of Paris is closed because it's some sort of thingamajig. Anyway, I only got 6 seconds. I'll get you on vacuum sealing next time. And more vacuum pump from Neurologic. We got that. Nate and Thai Basil Daiquiri. I'll get you all of this the next time around. Cooking Issues.